My name is Jane Bernard. I'm the founder of WagWorthy Naturals, and we make healthy natural supplements for dogs. And we also donate a percentage of our proceeds to senior dog rescue and also to subsidize spay and neuter programs. And I've been engaged with rescue for many years, and seeing the difference that spay and neuter has made in my own community with really helping reduce the homeless animal population, which we're really committed to. And just a quick little plug, this is our hip and joint supplement. Can you see that? Can you guys see that? Yeah, I don't see myself. Okay, great. And which is available on our website, and it's a great product, and it's really helpful if you've got a dog that has mobility issues or is recovering from injury or surgery. If you're interested to learn more, you can check it out on our website. And Steffen, I'm really thrilled to have you here. As I said, you're like a hero of mine. I think that you have a really unique approach to working with dogs that's really much needed. And many of us here know quite a bit about Steffen, but I just want to give you a little bit of an intro. So Steffen, you're a former animal cruelty investigator and a shelter director. You've got 11 years of experience in the animal welfare field, but it feels like you're much more than that. You co-founded Ohioans Against Breed Discrimination and successfully fought a breed ban in 6 cities in Ohio, right? Yay.
Yes.
Killer. That's great work.
Along with Best Friends. Their Best Friends legal team helped us out a lot with that. But yeah, we were able to do it in 6 different municipalities.
That's awesome. And then also you donate free educational workshops to shelter, rescue, and veterinary staff. You've provided free training services to the homeless population on Skid Row in LA, free wolf training services to your buddy, Matt, and Lockwood Animal Rescue Center, and also you're founder of the Underdog Alliance. And so for those of you that don't know about the Underdog Alliance, they provide shelter, rehoming assistance, and funds for medical treatment for at-risk dogs every year. And these are dogs that most likely wouldn't have successful outcomes at a shelter. So, and that's a nonprofit, and I'm just gonna do this is my plug. Please go check out that website. It has great information. And, I know these are tough times for many of us, but it's a nonprofit and even $1 helps. So go check out the website. I just made a donation today. I love it. You're spending time here with Steffen. So maybe $1, $5, $10, whatever you can give, every little bit helps and makes a difference. You also teach safe dog handling to shelters, police departments, and other agencies, which I think is really amazing work. And now we're going to get to you call yourself a dog therapist, and with Save Them Dog Training. And I love this. You address mental health issues that our pets face, and you like to replace the words training and fixing with helping and understanding, which I think you're a genius. So not to put you on the spot or make you blush, but you bring an incredible range of background experience to the table, and you've really made a difference in the lives of so many dogs. So thank you. I just want to say welcome, and it's just an honor to have you here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And you have a really unique philosophy about how you work with dogs. So would you tell us a little bit about that? Give us a little background and a little, especially for those of us that maybe are here that haven't followed you yet on Instagram, but you will after today.
Sure. So my dad's a dog trainer, first and foremost. He has a well-established business in Pasadena. He's been doing this since the 1950s or so. It's interesting because him and I have similar career paths. We have a completely different methodology when it comes to working with animals. And what I do on my end it stemmed from my time running a humane society, seeing animals being euthanized for behavior that I thought was most likely related to stress and anxiety and fear and insecurity and trauma. And then moving from a shelter director position to actually going out in the field as an animal cruelty investigator, and then firsthand seeing dogs where I would cut them off of chains and take them home. And I would watch their behavior change and evolve as they would go through these critical decompression periods. And I started to believe at a certain point that it was a very, very simple formula. And all we had to do was take a dog out of a bad environment and put them into a good environment, and good things would come of it. And it was really, honestly, to be quite frank, it was through my worst failures that I learned that it's not that simple. Mm-hmm. And that there's many more nuances to it. All dogs truly are individuals. Their brains are as complex as our brains, and to simplify things and to simplify processes and to dumb a dog down, if you will, it just does them an injustice. It does them a disservice. So, what I really try and do, what I've been trying to do for the past few years, is try and learn and absorb as much as I can about understanding how dogs can have these canine post-traumatic stress disorder type of responses, these conditioned emotional responses, these triggers that go far beyond training and far beyond teaching a dog no or leave it or place, and going actually into a therapeutic model. And I would see time and time again when I would work with trainers who would work with shelter dogs, that they seemed very, very focused on testing dogs and getting results from those tests right away, and making this blanket determination about the dog's behavior and their adoptability and how safe they may or may not be based on this snapshot when the dogs were in their most stressed out view or state of mind. And when I started to skip the assessment and just take the dogs in without worrying about what kind of behavior was being exhibited, just kind of washing that away and then waiting for them to decompress, and I focused more on that therapeutic model, we started to see that not all the time, but many times, a lot of that behavior would go away completely, would dissipate to a more manageable level, or not. It doesn't always work out that well, but it was surprising how many times it did work when we focused on therapy first and then looked at behavior and then started working on behavior management or training protocols.
Awesome. And you call yourself a dog therapist. So, and I found that, I did read that post that you posted about your experience with your mom and how that informed you, and not to go far down that rabbit hole.
That's fine.
I think that is a really unique approach. You touched on it in what you just said, but can you speak a little bit more to that in this idea of, rather than training and fixing, you're working to helping and understanding, which you just touched on that a little bit, but can you go a little deeper into that? Because I find that piece really fascinating and a really unique approach.
Definitely. Well, when I looked at everything from a training standpoint, I realized that I would fail quite often. And many trainers feel as if they fail, and many pet owners feel as if they are failing as well, when we think of everything as a training issue. And the reason why we feel like failures is because not everything is a training issue. Going back to the complexity of a dog's brain, going back to the fact that dogs have certain periods in their mind or in their development when they are especially sensitive. They have moments called fear imprint periods. These happen between 6 to 10 weeks of age, and somewhere between 7 and 14 months. It can happen again during a 3-week period. These are moments where an experience can be a single impact learning moment for a dog, a moment where it leaves an imprint in their brain, very similar to how we as humans experience PTSD. And the thing about humans with PTSD, me as a veteran, Matt as a veteran, and you don't have to be a veteran to have PTSD, but speaking from a veteran standpoint, we would never tell a veteran with PTSD to just get over those fireworks. We would be like, dude, they're just fireworks. You're not in Iraq anymore. Just get over it. We would say, this veteran has PTSD. We should limit their exposure to their triggers. We should help keep them under threshold and not try to fix this because it's a post-traumatic response. And they did one study on canine PTSD with military working dogs, and the results were not surprising to me. The results were kind of what I expected all along, which is that many of these military working dogs had to be retired and could no longer live normal lives, and they expressed these severe responses to certain triggers that were directly related to the trauma they were exposed to. Now, we started studying PTSD with humans, with veterans also, so we're kind of following this trend historically of we first start looking at humans and go, oh yeah, this happens with humans, and eventually we go, well, maybe it can be happening with our companion animals as well. There's always a time lag there, but we're eventually starting to get there. And as we realized with humans, you don't have to go to war to have PTSD, and dogs don't have to go to war to have PTSD either. Any kind of traumatic experience can create this post-traumatic response. So taking it just from that mindset and that notion that it is possible, you know, we make all these wonderful generalized statements about dogs, like we should be more like dogs because they live in the moment. Dogs don't hold on to the past. These are wonderful, very, very colorful, nice, heartfelt generalizations that aren't true. They just dumb dogs down. Sure, dogs can't live in the moment, but dogs can also have post-traumatic responses to earlier trauma, specifically if it was severe trauma, or even more so if it happened during their earlier developmental periods. With a lot of shelter dogs, as a shelter director, the bulk of the dogs that came in to my shelter typically fell in that 7 to 14 month range because they're no longer cute puppies anymore. They've outgrown that phase, you know, or maybe they, at that age, you know, they're fully vaccinated. Maybe they go to a dog park and have a bad experience. They go to a shelter, it's extremely traumatic. They go and get their nails trimmed for the first time and it's severely traumatic. There's so many reasons why, if we reach back into a dog's history, why we could understand why they might have some kind of response that seems over the top for us. Some kind of response where simple clicker training isn't working. Some type of response that we just can't kind of get through to. And when we understand that it might be something that falls into that category, and we look at it more as a therapy than a training session, then we realize that we're not failures and our dogs aren't broken. We're not messing up with the training, and there's nothing wrong with our dogs, but they do need some help, and we need to do a better job understanding them, keeping them away from their triggers. And what we find with long-term behavior modification protocols is that avoiding the triggers in the first place is part of an overall training protocol. So whether we simply just avoid the triggers to not put a dog over a threshold because we're respecting them, or whether we're doing it as part of a long-term training protocol, it's just kind of critical.
Wow, thank you. That makes so much sense. And, you know, I'm guessing that a good percentage of people on this call have shelter dogs or rescues or have fostered. And we've all seen behavior that could, I know I can say that in relation to my dog for sure.
Definitely,
you know,
sure.
That it makes a lot of sense. So thank you for that. I really appreciate you explaining that. And before we get into our topic, I also would like you to tell us a bit about the work that you do at the ranch and the different kind of, you know, you have 3 different populations or 3 different categories of dogs that you work with there. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I think people would find that really interesting. I know I do.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, going back to how I said I learned the most from my mistakes. When I was in Ohio, we just had a nonprofit model. You know, we did a lot of good work, and we hoped that donations came in, and that was kind of that. So because of that strict nonprofit model, I wasn't ever really able to hire staff. I wasn't really able to buy the best equipment, buy the best fencing. I was just kind of doing it the best I could with very, very limited resources. So part of relocating and moving back home to California, besides being near my support system, was also a chance for me to come up with a new model. So we have on one side of the property our for-profit training business. And with the for-profit training business, that Save Them Dog Training, we charge fees for services. We have training clients. We have board and train clients. They're primarily rescues. We have some private clients also. And that's about 1/3 of our population. The funds from that pays for the property, pays for the mortgage, pays for a couple key employees, pays for the supplies, pays for everything else. So we don't have to rely on donations and on goodwill to support the rest of the dogs. The other 2/3 of the dogs are 2 populations. One of the myths or misconceptions, about the ranch is that we fix aggression, that we cure aggression. We don't. Again, going back to therapy versus training, it's more about understanding dogs and setting them up for success. So what we really do is we look for dogs that are typically in that single bite incident category, where we don't really have a long history of aggression, but they've been pushed and the stress has risen and risen and risen. We're going to talk about stress thresholds, and we're going to talk about how much a dog can handle before they go over threshold. And typically we take in dogs on our rescue who have gone over threshold because they've been pushed, but they don't necessarily have a long history of aggression. So basically dogs that have been pushed too far, they've gone over threshold, they're now a liability. We try and take those dogs, do all the therapy that we need to do, muzzle condition them so we can safely reintroduce them to certain scenarios, and then see if they truly can or cannot be adopted out. The ones that can be adopted out, we adopt out. And the ones that can't be adopted out, we keep under our sanctuary, which is our third group of dogs that are here. So these are dogs that are truly unsafe. They do have bite histories. Typically human aggression, dog aggression, honestly, I view dog aggressive dogs as highly adoptable. Dog aggression can be managed. If a dog is dog aggressive, you muzzle train them and you keep them away from other dogs. It's more so human aggression that we are going to be more hesitant about putting back out into the public. I have a family, I have a son. When it comes to a dog that has a response to bite people, we're a little more hesitant. So just so you know, it's more so human biters.
Yeah.
Dogs done usually. So there's 6 levels of dog bites, level 1 through 6. I won't go through all of them, but level 1's an air snap. Level 6 is a fatality, so there's a wide gap. But we typically focus on level 4, 5, and 6.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you for that information. I hope everybody else finds that as interesting as I do. I think it's really, your model is really unique. So now getting to our topic for today, this is just such a unique time in history where we suddenly are all home all the time with our dogs. I mean, we not, at least speaking for myself, I don't go out at night. I don't go out to lunch. I'm not going to work. I'm working from home. So it's been wonderful, but it also is setting our dogs up for a challenge once our lives start to resume again, whether that's going back to school or to work or, suddenly spending more time outside the home. So what are your suggestions for how do we help prepare our dogs for that transition? And I think now is the time to start, right? Before suddenly there's this abrupt change.
I would say, if possible, the time to start getting your dog ready for you to leave is about a month and a half before you have to start leaving, to be completely honest. You want to give yourself a 4 to 6 week window. What I've done, I've never used Zoom. I'm not sharing my screen right now, am I? You guys just see my face, is that right?
We see your face, yes.
Okay, all right, okay, I don't know what you guys So I pulled a few resources. I'm going to cite those resources too. But I have some links, I have some information. I kind of want to talk you guys through that and walk you through that because it's going to be different for every dog. But a kind of general rule of thumb, or I guess a general mistake that a lot of pet owners make and a lot of dog owners make, is they don't prepare their dogs for periods of stress when they are still there to help their dog through the stress. Dogs that are destroying furniture when we're gone, dogs that are, and I've seen the extremes. I took in 2 dogs that had such severe separation anxiety, they jumped through the living room window, burst the glass, and were running through the neighborhood with glass all over their face. The ability for a dog to self-harm because they are experiencing such emotional distress because we haven't adequately prepared them for a situation is immense. And typically we don't think to do these things that we're going to mention until we leave. We don't think to put our dog in a crate until we have to put them in a crate. But then it's something strange and foreign, and all of a sudden we're gone and we can't help them feel better about it. We don't teach our dog to feel comfortable wearing a basket style muzzle until they have to go to the vet, and the vet puts the muzzle on them before they trim their nails. And now the muzzle becomes this extension of the stress that may have caused them to bite in the first place. So there's so many steps to kind of get a dog used to and desensitize them to any tool or any process or anything we're going to do. It's just a matter of realizing that the failure to do that is setting our dogs up for failure. When we don't do that, we can pretty much expect that we're going to stress them out and not be there to help them at the same time.
Yeah. So what are some little steps that we can do? What kind of suggestions do you have for us?
Sure thing. Before I get into the steps, there's one quote actually that I want to pull out. And I was going through, I'm a big Karen Pryor fan. I'm a big Dr. Dunbar fan. So Karen Pryor, I was reading one of her articles, and this is from one of the trainers that she certified, Tina Flores, and she defined, or she kind of helped describe what separation anxiety feels like. So I'm going to read this to you guys just for a little bit of perspective. I thought it was a great quote. So once again, Tina Flores here. When a dog is experiencing separation anxiety, it is quite similar to a panic attack in a human. A human, for example, with a fear of heights who is placed on top of a tall building might exhibit sweaty palms, dry mouth, and a fast heart rate. In the same way, every time a dog who has separation anxiety is left alone, their bodies are flooded with the same stress hormones. And we talk about stress hormones, we talk about cortisol, and this is exactly why we talked about this being a therapeutic answer versus a training answer. If our dogs are stressed, we want to get into their head and help them feel better. So first thing too is there's three things that trainers and behaviorists have kind of identified as reasons why you might see separation anxiety in your dog. The first one is the change in the family dynamic. Death of a family member is the one I know best. I've worked with several dogs who have wound up at a shelter because the owner passed away. No one in the family could take care of the dog, and that by itself caused an emotional response that the dog never saw before, the owners never saw before. Change in lifestyle, so rehoming, moving from one part of the country to another. And the third one is change in routine. This is particularly when the pet owner transitions from one routine that the dog is used to another routine that the dog is not used to. And this is exactly what we're talking about now, us going back to work. So many people, whether they already had their dogs before they were quarantined, or whether they fostered a dog because of the quarantine, our dogs are now used to this routine. And if we don't help them normalize the fact that we're going to be gone and that it's okay that we're gone, we're going to be in trouble. So here's some things that we can do. Let me pull up another one of my little documents here just so I can kind of stay on topic and not go too far across the board here. I tend to get chatty with this stuff. Okay. Okay, real quickly. So before I get into what you can do, one thing that's very important to me, not enough people know how to read dog body language. Dogs always communicate before actually going over threshold. Over threshold is a dog training terminology, means your dog is doing the thing. They're barking, they're lunging, they're destroying the furniture, they're doing that thing, right? But dogs communicate before that. So one of the things that we recommend is we're teaching what we call departure training, which is getting a dog used to you leaving. We'll talk about how you leave for short intervals and then come back, and then leave for short intervals and then come back, and normalize the process. But one thing you can do is you can actually record your dogs. There's lots of apps and programs and cheap cameras where you can see your dogs. You can sit on one side of your house and you can watch their emotional response. And if you can see them getting stressed out before they go over threshold, you can go back into the home, reinforce, help them feel good about the situation, leave again, and continue to monitor them. So I do want to go over some stress signs, stress displays, things that are telling us our dog is not comfortable. It means they haven't gone over threshold, but they're not comfortable. So we want to look for heavy panting. We want to look at intent staring, like when you leave and you have your video camera on and they're just panting and staring at the door and they're ignoring the treats that are right below them. We talk a lot about using food and using high value rewards in my therapy program, because food is a great way to help dogs and people feel good. And it's also a really good metric of stress. If your dog would normally chomp away at a bone in front of you, and you leave and put a video camera on, and you're gone, and maybe you're not getting complaints from the landlord and you're not seeing any physical damage, but they're not eating the bone they would normally eat, that's a stress sign. They haven't gone over threshold yet, but they're stressed out, and that's going to impact them long-term cumulatively. So, getting them to follow you, whining, barking, those are all stress signs that we want to look for. So what we really want to do is we want to prepare our dog for the moment of us leaving, and we can do that in multiple ways. We talk about doing a lot of extra physical and mental stimulation before we leave. They say a tired dog is a well-behaved dog. That's some basic kind of common sense, right? So don't leave your dog if you haven't had a chance to really wear them out. Otherwise, because some people think their dogs have separation anxiety. What they're really suffering from is boredom. And so we have to determine, honestly, is our house a mess when we get home because our dog has separation anxiety and they're in a distressed state of mind? Or is our house a mess when we get home because we're not meeting our dog's needs and they're bored? There's a key distinction there. There's different answers based on what the diagnosis is, but on the surface, it can both look like separation anxiety. So making sure our dog isn't bored is the first thing. Lots of physical and mental stimulation before we leave, and then giving them lots of mental stimulation and mental toys while we're gone. There's all kinds of ideas. There's a thing called a Furbo, which is this little camera with a treat dispenser, and you can log in with your phone and you can get your dog's attention. You can be like, hey, how's it going, buddy? Come over here. And you can flick some treats to them from your phone. There's lots of ways. That's just one idea. Dr. Sophia Yin made this, I think it was Dr. Sophia Yin, made this time-dispensed time-lapse Kong dispenser. You can set the intervals of how long it takes before a Kong comes out, half hour, hour. There's so
like a Coke machine for Kongs.
Right, yeah, and you can time dispense it. There's, speaking of Kongs, one of the things we do a lot is we stuff them with peanut butter and then we freeze them overnight. Most people know to stuff Kongs, they don't think to freeze them. When you freeze them, they last a good hour or two. It gives your dog something to do while you're gone. Bully sticks. Everyone has different opinions about what is safe for your dog to chew unsupervised. So I don't want to give you any advice and you take it and have something happen. So some people don't feel comfortable giving like big chews or bones unsupervised. I understand that. But Kong stuffed and frozen, they have these, they're called sniff mats. And you can buy them, they're rubberized. You can smear those with peanut butter and freeze them. There's lots of things you can do. If your dog is in a crate and they destroy and they eat and they ingest everything, you can get a Frisbee and you can line the Frisbee with peanut butter and then take a zip tie and attach it to the outside of the crate. That way they can lick and lick and lick at the crate and they can get all the peanut butter for an hour, but they can't eat something and ingest something that might be harmful. We have to come up with these creative ideas to keep our dogs busy. So wear them out ahead of time, physically and mentally, get them good and tired, and then give them stuff to do while you're home. Those are kind of the basics. Your everyday average dog should be kind of good with that. But now, again, as you said, this is kind of a unique time where we've been home with our dogs 24/7. We haven't really been leaving. So what we have to do is two things. Primarily, we want to give our dog a safe space if we're not sure if they can be in the home without destroying things. And this is why crate training is really, really important. And this is where people say, well, why would I put my dog in the crate? I'm home. Well, you put your dog in the crate while you're home so that they can feel comfortable about the crate. So they can create this positive association with the crate. So a lot of crate training starts with, not having free feeding, having set times where we feed our dogs, opening the crate door up, putting the food in the crate, leaving the door open and letting our dog go in, eat their food and come out whenever they want. Putting all of our treats, all of our high value rewards, opening the crate door, putting them in there, leaving the door open, letting our dog come out whenever they want. Just making sure that the crate is the place where all of the good things happen. We want to create a really strong, positive connection and association with that specific location. And then we can start to slowly shut the crate door and not leave. We just hang out. If we put a dog in a crate and then leave for 8 hours because we have to go to work and that's never happened to them before, how can we ever expect them to be okay with that? Some dogs are amazing. They'll put up with all the crazy things we do, but why not get them used to these things ahead of time? So, and when I talk about things like putting treats in the crate, leaving the door open, and then eventually closing the door. As we start to close the door, we have to remember that when we talk about dog training, it's not like going to the gym. You don't have to block out an hour and a half. You can do a training session in 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. A couple minutes and stop. A couple minutes, it's about repetition. I have clients all the time that say, how long will it take me for you to fix my dog? And I say, you're asking all the wrong questions. It's not me, first of all, to you, but it's not how long, it's how many memories, how many experiences can we create? And we can create a memory, we can create an experience in about maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes.
That is really helpful, because it takes off the, oh my God, this has to be a big thing. And it transfers into, oh, let's just incorporate this into our daily routine. It's not that big of a deal, but by doing it often and frequently, it reinforces that experience for the dog and it builds that habit.
Exactly. I mean, if you've ever seen a dog, in the country, and if you've ever seen a dog walking through Manhattan, the dog walking through Manhattan can walk through situations that the dog in the country would probably be extremely spooked by. The only difference is the amount of exposure.
Right.
Dogs are normalized to the things that they're exposed to. So why not expose them to these things now, while we can make sure that they still feel positive, or we can make sure that they're still staying under threshold. So that's a big part. The other big part is we create a therapeutic environment for our dogs. There are certain things that we incorporate, and this is the part of the spiel where my lawyer likes me to remind people that I'm not a veterinarian. This is not to be considered medical advice. Anything I say, you should talk to your veterinarian about first before doing. However, with that said, there are many holistic things that we can do that can help reduce stress, reduce anxiety. I mentioned that term, stress threshold. It's very, very real. It's something that I have, you have it, everyone that's listening has it, and all of our dogs have it. It's this imaginary space in between my fingers. And this is my threshold. And so this is how much I can take on any given day before I lose it. Okay. And certain factors are going to impact my stress threshold that might not impact your stress threshold.
Yeah. And some days it's like, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And so when your stress threshold is this big, how much can you take? If everything is going wrong in life, everything, and you're this stressed out and you're running late to something, and all of a sudden someone brake checks you, they cut in front of you, they flip you off, they give you the bird, you might have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
Now, let's say your threshold is this big, and it's the exact same scenario. You got a massage, you got a raise, you got a new car, you went on a vacation, whatever you need, right? Because we're all individuals. Wherever you need it, have a big, healthy threshold. You're in a really good place emotionally. Someone cuts you off and they brake check you, and you're probably going to go, if you're anything like me, wow, I'm really sorry they're having such a rough day, right? It's the same exact scenario. The only thing that differed and changed was the threshold that we brought into that scenario. And that's why therapy is more important than training for me. Therapy has to come first. Therapy gives me a threshold that's this big. No therapy gives me a threshold that's this big. Which one am I as a trainer going to be able to have more success with?
Right. So that's what you're doing. That's what we're doing for our dogs by practicing and continually reinforcing and just doing these little exercises and incorporating them into our daily
But
routine.
there are some things that we can add to this. So this is the kind of thing that's cool. You can kind of experiment. You can kind of figure out what works for you. So there's sound therapy. We always leave music playing for our dog. Some people say like, oh, my dog loves Metallica, or my dog loves country. And I say, no, you love that stuff and your dog loves you. They've done studies on this. So in the UK, they studied the effects both in terms of the heart rate as well as observed behavior in shelter dogs as they pipe certain music into the shelter. 2 different studies about 10, 15 years apart. The first study scored or showed that classical music scored really, really high in terms of reducing stress, slowing down a heartbeat. And they would see these anxious dogs that were pacing start to just relax and calm down. And if you think about like our children, when we bought them those nursery lullabies to help them go to sleep, a lot of those were classical composers. There's a lot of similarities between things that relax us and reduce stress for us that also relax dogs and reduce stress for dogs. And none of these things, it's important to note, nothing I'm going to recommend. I don't want you to look for that one thing that's the silver bullet solution. There is no silver bullet solution. It's little incremental things that can give us a slightly bigger threshold and a slightly bigger threshold and a slightly bigger threshold, because we can do all of the crate training and all of the, we call it departure training in the world. But if our dog still has a tiny threshold, they can still only handle that much.
So you have to kind of take these things and experiment with them and figure out what works for your dog. And that study is really interesting about the classical music, because I've heard so many people say, oh, I leave the TV on for my dog, or I leave the music on for my dog.
Background noise, yeah.
I always wondered, does that do anything. So the classical music is interesting.
It really did. And so then it's interesting too, about 15 years later, they redid that study. They tested new styles of music that they hadn't tested before. And reggae actually beat classical music out. So I thought that was interesting. The reason why I thought it was interesting particularly was Cornell University a few years ago did the first study on CBD with dogs. And we're going to talk about CBD next, which we know comes from marijuana. CBD. So Cornell University did this study, and it showed, and now the study was not for anxiety. The study was, to be fully transparent, it was for osteoarthritic dogs, and pain management. But the studies from Cornell University came out around the same time as the second study from the UK, and it showed that if you give your dogs a little bit of weed, and dogweed, right, and you put some reggae on, that there's some science to the fact that everything's going to be all right.
The chill factor.
So there really is. There's these, and again, we talk about dogweed. What about CBD? CBD has no psychoactive chemicals, has no psychoactive compounds. Now here in California, because our laws are different, we do have different companies that offer CBD with and without THC, which is that psychoactive compound we think of like getting high. And the reason why I really do like CBD over actual prescribed medication to help with anxiety is because prescribed medication does get our dogs high. I've seen dogs doped up on sedatives, and there's just nothing to them. They're not lucid. Yeah, they're not reacting, but they're just like, they're doped up. I don't want a doped up dog. So we joke about the dogweed, but I really do like the CBD because it's non-psychoactive and it can help out a lot with anxiety, specifically when we incorporate it with other things like the music. We also do a lot with essential oils. Now, some critics say that there's no science behind, or no data behind essential oils, but I've seen a lot of emotional changes with our dogs. The one thing we want to stay away from with essential oils is tea tree oil. It has to be in very, very high amounts, but in high amounts, it can be toxic. So for us, we just leave it off the table as an option. But we also have diffusers going. So by our crates, when we leave, we have this iPod docking station. They've gotten their CBD treats. They have their stuffed Kongs. We have some Bob Marley going. We have the Kong with the peanut butter, so they get the munchies, they can lick the peanut butter. They have all these things. It's a therapeutic environment. They have this lavender essential oil diffuser. They have all of these things to help them feel better about what might be a stressful situation for them. So not only did we wear them out, did we tire them, did we physically make them tired and mentally make them tired before leaving, and not only did we condition them to have a safe place where they feel comfortable in, we've also added all of these other therapeutic modalities of treatment to just really ensure that as we're gone, even if we're gone for a few hours, that they can handle it because they have a big, healthy threshold.
Wow, that's a lot of tools to have in your toolkit.
Now, there are some more. If people are having more severe issues, there is some stuff that we can do specifically around departure training, where some dogs, like, we're creatures of habit, and some dogs will see us picking our keys up or putting our socks on, or and they start to realize, oh my God, they're leaving, and we see that the dog is getting stressed out. We can normalize that process also. It's very, very simple. I can go over it more in greater detail later if there isn't time now. But for the average dog that doesn't have severe separation anxiety, giving them a safe place, desensitizing them to that safe place, wearing them out, giving them all those things, and then still leaving for short intervals at a time. So while we're home, we can give them some treats, do all these things, set up their little spa area, leave, go outside, turn the camera on, watch them, do it for maybe 5 minutes or so, and then go back inside. And one thing that's really important is as we leave, as we come and as we go, we don't want to make a big deal about the process of coming or going. It is very hard for me not to get down and squeal and make all these sounds when I see my dog, because I'm so excited to see them. I've missed them and they've missed me, and we have this amazing bond. But when we do that, and when we make the process of coming in, when we have these long goodbyes, I'm going to miss you so much. You're going to miss me too. You're going to be okay. I'm going to be. When we make this process of coming and going an emotional process versus just a simple matter-of-fact process, we are adding more stress to the situation. Our dogs, who their biggest highlight is us coming home, they're pacing all day waiting for that moment. Have you ever sat at home waiting for a really important phone call? It's not a good feeling, right? So
Right.
why would we want to make our dogs feel that way? So also normalizing the process of just coming and going without making a huge deal out of it, waiting for them to just be calm and then give them all that love. I'm not saying don't love our dogs. I'm not saying don't say hi to them. I am saying wait for them to be calm. We want to reward calm behavior. We want to reward a calm emotional state of mind, because then they're not going to be affected by it when we leave, and that by itself is going to help ensure that they're not sitting there pacing and pacing and pacing, waiting for the biggest moment of their day when we come in and we rush in and make a huge deal out of it. Let's not make that their highlight of their day. Otherwise, they're going to stress all day thinking about it.
So I'm guilty of,
Most people are.
when I come home, my dog comes running to me and he does this thing where he curls his lip back and smiles at me, and it's just incredibly endearing, and it's hard not for me to squeal and grab him. So you're saying I should be cool and let that moment pass and then go and give him a scritch? Or how do I break myself with that habit, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. You can wait it out if you want to, but the concern with waiting it out is that we don't want dogs to just sit there and get more and more frustrated because they don't really understand why all of a sudden we're ignoring them. So we want to do a lot of back and forth. It's kind of like a yo-yo process with dogs. We have 4 quadrants of dog training. We have positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. We have positive punishment and we have negative punishment. Without going too much into the weeds of what all that means, just think of positive as arithmetic. We're adding something to the situation.
Okay.
And think of negative also as arithmetic. We're removing something from the situation. That's all, adding or removing. Now, reinforcement means we want certain behavior to continue. Punishment just means we want behavior to stop. That's all that means. So when people talk about negative punishment, that's a very effective tool to use. It sounds bad. It's negative and it's punishment, but it's not bad. Negative punishment means if a dog is jumping up as we get home because they're excited that we're home, we turn around and we ignore that behavior, but we only wait for that 1 second where they put all 4 on the floor, and we turn around and we couple that with positive reinforcement. So then we add a reward, a praise, a treat, or something like that. We have to know they have little brains. They're going to get excited and they're going to jump up again. So we have to be prepared to do the negative punishment and remove what they want, which is our attention, but then be prepared to come right back and do the positive reinforcement. That's why I call it a yo-yo effect. But we have to recondition them that it's not that we can't give them attention, it's that we're going to give them attention when they're calm and when they're giving us good behavior.
Okay.
Then we give them attention. They say you have a half a second to reinforce an action. So if our dog is jumping, we turn around and boom, they've put all 4 on the floor and we're quick on the draw and we see it and we turn around and we praise them, they're going to realize if we're consistent and everyone in the house follows the same rules, that they're getting the attention they want for sitting, not for jumping. They will quickly start to remove the behaviors that are getting in the way of the attention that they desire. So one of the tools that we use is from Dr. Sophia Yin, and it's called Learn to Earn. And people can Google that. They can Google Dr. Sophia Yin, Y-I-N, and Learn to Earn. And it's a great protocol. The 3 R's is another. Let me find the 3 R's. I'll read that to you very, very briefly. But yeah, so instead of waiting it out, you don't have to wait it out. You can ask for alternate behavior. And then reward that alternate behavior, and just realize how important it is that your timing is on point. So triple R is known as request, response, reward. So this is what we want to do for a few weeks at a time at home while we're still home. It's not that we can't love our dogs. We're going to request calm, good behavior first, though. Once they give us that response, we're going to reward it. If they go over the threshold, we're going to back off a little bit, and we're just going to keep teaching them that the affection that they want is coupled with the calm behavior. And then those dogs are easier to greet when you get home. And because they're now easier to greet when you get home, they're less anxious about you leaving in the first place.
Okay. So what I hear you say then is, all right, I love my dog does this cute little smile thing. He doesn't jump up on me. He's respectful. So I can just pet him and,
Sure.
But not to make, maybe I'm making a little bit more of a big deal of that moment when I come home than maybe I need to.
Yeah, it helps them.
Yeah, just say hello to him and scritch him and.
Yeah, it's just not. And look, if your dog doesn't have separation anxiety issues, you can throw all this out the window. But specifically for those people that are getting those calls from their landlord, or people that are watching their dogs and they're seeing that they're distressed. If it's not an issue, I always say, people always say, "Can my dog be on the couch?" I don't know. Can your dog be on the couch? Those are your rules. For me, it's only an issue if my dog is going to bite somebody or not allow somebody else on the couch. But, everyone's got to come up with their own rules. That's why I really like to keep things generalized. But yes, if separation anxiety is a problem, definitely normalize the goodbyes and hellos as much as possible.
Okay, awesome. And we've got, I would say if you've got a few other things that you want to share with us, why don't we go ahead and do that, and then we'll get into the questions.
Sure. So we have a couple of games here. This is where I wrote a few notes. Let me see what I hit and what I didn't hit. We talked about how stress. So one thing that we didn't hit is just the importance too. We talked about stress and how we don't want dogs to be distressed because we don't like to see them chew up our furniture, and we don't want to get calls from the landlord. But it's also important to realize that stress impacts learning. And if a dog is distressed, it's harder for them to learn in the first place. Mm-hmm. So even if we're just doing obedience training when we get home from work, if we have a dog that we're doing agility training with, or anything that we're doing, if we're just doing regular leash training and our process is to come home and leash our dog because we've been gone all day, if they've been distressed all day, they're going to carry that with them. So even if they're not destroying furniture, even if you don't think it's that big of a deal, if they don't feel positive about us being gone in the first place, it is going to affect the choices they make later. That might be a dog who gets into a fight at the dog park when they go to the dog park later, or they are more reactive on leash when you take them out. It's because of the stress that they carried through and they internalized all day. So it's just another reason why it's so important to make sure that our dogs are comfortable and feel positive about us leaving. So we talked about, one thing that's important too, I have a lot of clients that have a hard time with when I teach them to only reinforce and reward calm behavior. They have dogs that are very excited and they try to like push the dog down or tell the dog no, or make the dog, you teach them commands and try and do that. And the reality is that when we're giving them any kind of attention, it's like children. There are children who will act out just for that negative attention also. Right. Anytime that we're giving them that while they're giving us this, what we call when they're demanding our attention, we are inadvertently reinforcing that behavior. So that's why it's so important to ignore rather than try to correct, rather than try and do anything that I wouldn't recommend. Shot collar, squirt with a water bottle, anything that other trainers might recommend in terms of aversive correction. It's still a response. We're still getting a response. They're getting a response. So we don't want to inadvertently reinforce that behavior. Let's see what else. I just don't want to make sure I didn't miss anything before we go into the questions. So we talked about learn to earn. That's again a 4 to 6 week process where we really focus specifically on only giving them that love when they give us the behavior we want. But at that point, in that 4 to 6 week period, as difficult as that may be, if we realize how much our dogs are going to thank us for that later, it's also important to realize that if we are requesting alternate behavior, like if we're requesting our dog to do the watch command, that's a command I teach my dogs a lot. I say, watch, and they focus on me. We don't want to repeat commands. We ask them for the behavior once. If they don't give us the response that we want, we don't repeat. It's request the behavior, wait for the response, then reward. If we request the behavior and we don't get the response we want, we just want to walk away and then try again. It's also important to realize that we should have different levels of values in terms of our rewards. So there's low value treats, there's mid value treats, and there's high value treats. If we're training our dog and we're trying to get them comfortable with us leaving, and let's say we think their favorite treat is a milk bone, it's not. If we think their favorite treat is a milk bone because they eat a milk bone in front of us, and then we leave and the milk bone is untouched, we don't want to go, well, my dog doesn't like milk bones. We want to go, okay, my dog was distressed while I was gone. I need to find something more valuable and go up the chain. Every dog values food at a different level. Typically, the smelliest, stickiest, most human grade food is the most valuable. I kind of go kibble here, training treats at the store here. Then we go like string cheese, hot dogs, salami, Braunschweiger, which is liver paste. That's way, way, way up there. So, you know, if what you're doing isn't giving you the response you want, it's not that rewards don't work. It's that our dog is too stressed out. And one of the possible answers is to increase the value of the reward. There's also a very specific training game you can play with your dog, and it's called I'll Be Right Back. And I'll Be Right Back is very important. So I'm going to go over the cues and the way to play this game, but this is kind of the way. I remember I told you about like coming and going. Right. This is how you can make the coming and going process an actual game you can play. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get a bunch of high value rewards that are very, very small, something that will take our dog a long time to get through, individual little pieces. We want to sprinkle all those treats all over their crate and then say, I'll be right back. And then we walk away, and then we come back before they're done eating treats. That's why we want to have a bunch of them in the beginning. We want to come back before they're done eating the treats, okay? And then we sprinkle some more treats, and we just sit and we wait for calm behavior. We don't leave again. We just sit and we wait. We wait till they're done eating treats, and we wait till they're calm. They're not frantic. They're not running. They're not excited. We just wait for calmness. As soon as we get calmness, we say, I'll be right back. We sprinkle treats, and we walk away. And then we just repeat this game of I'll be right back. Every time it's I'll be right back, sprinkle a bunch of treats, walk away, leave, go out of eyesight, come back into eyesight before they're done with the treats, wait for them to finish, wait for them to be calm, and repeat. And you can slowly go out of the room for longer and longer intervals. And then eventually over a 2 to 3 week period, as you say, I'll be right back.
They're going, yay!
Yeah, and they can, now they feel safe. They know that you're going to leave, and they know that you're going to come back. And that's a really important game to play. So try playing I'll Be Right Back. It's a really, really important game. The other important game to play, we call them treasure hunts or Easter egg hunts. This is a process where we encourage a dog to use their nose, to use their strongest sense, and to go and to look. Give the treats when they're hungry. Yes, give the treats when they're hungry, Barb. Yes. I do a lot of training. If I'm doing a lot of training and I want to use food to create an emotional response, typically we feed twice a day. I will shift to feeding once a day in the end of the day. That way I know how many treats I'm giving my dog. I'm not overfeeding them, but also they're a little more motivated to work for me because they skip breakfast. So yes, definitely food while hungry. So with treasure hunts or with Easter egg hunts, what we're doing is we are hiding multiple high value items throughout the house. And we're encouraging our, we walk along with them at first, and we teach them, like I call it find it actually, we'll find it. And we teach them to use their nose and start looking for things throughout the house. And what we're doing, the benefit of this is we're compelling our dog to think. When they know find it, and they know that means, hey, there's treats hidden around the house, I should go look for them. We're encouraging them to think on their own. So much of dog training is us commanding and them responding. Let's get them to think on their own, because when we're gone, they have to think on their own. And when a dog knows find it and treasure hunts, not only are they less likely to panic and give in to impulse, we're solidifying really positive associations with the house. We're solidifying positive associations to the house itself that have nothing to do with us. The treats are under the pillow. The treats are in the basement. The treats are in the closet. So every time they find it, we're not giving them the treats. So they're creating a positive association with the house that we eventually want them to be in by themselves. So why not feel comfortable about the house itself if we're not going to be leaving them in crates? So yeah, playing I'll Be Right Back and doing Easter egg hunts are super, super important.
Well, those are really simple games that everyone can do.
And again, just repetitive. Do it a couple times a day, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Couple minutes. It's not like going to the gym. You don't have to commit to an hour and a half. You have 2 minutes, you can do it. You have 5 minutes, you can do it twice.
And I'm going to go ahead. We've got a question from Niku. So I'm going to unmute you, Niku, and you want to come on and ask your question?
So I had a question about when you are working with them before you have to go back to work on being in their crate. Let's say you're watching them with a camera. And I heard like this classic conditioning or whatever, like normal training thing where it's like, don't reward crying. So like she doesn't have severe anxiety. This isn't a very severe case, but I have been leaving her in her crate when I am home. And I do hear, she knows I'm home and she will react And like, obviously using the Kong and everything will help occupy her longer, but what is like your advice on like when you see them on the camera crying or when you hear them crying, how do you support them in that?
That's a great question. And it's a very, very important question. It's a very important distinction that a lot of people don't even think to ask. So the whole point of the training is to view what they're saying before they start to show us, before they actually go over threshold. Dogs are really good at training us, and they're really good at learning that if they make certain noises, it's going to get a response from us. So that's kind of why I do so much with creating that therapeutic environment with the classical music and the essential oil cues and all those different things, because it really can be difficult when you hear them making those noises. The instinct is to run and to make them less stressed out. We don't want to stress our dogs out, but the reality is they are learning that if they make certain sounds, that is going to get a response. So we want to make sure, again, that we can avoid them going over threshold in the first place. That's why before you even leave the house, just try the "I'll be right back" game, do the treats, and then just go outside the bedroom or whatever room you're in, go outside the room and then come right back in. So start small and start the baby steps, because it's kind of, I guess the best way to say it is if it gets to that point, it's too late. It's already a negative experience kind of, and we do just kind of have to wait it out and let them kind of get past that moment. The whole point is to not let it get to that in the first place.
Okay, thank you.
Which isn't, I'm not saying that's easy to do by any means, but that's kind of the intent.
Yeah, sheds light on, I get it now more. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, so that's why it does come back to just more of like the prep work and the therapy, does extra exercise help or not? And there's lots of different things, like there's weighted backpacks if we want to take our dog on a 2-mile hike and get the equivalent of a 4-mile hike out of them. There's lots of different ideas that maybe we can talk about later in terms of making sure that they really are good and tired and in a good place mentally and physically.
Awesome.
Steffen, thank you very much. I've learned a ton, and I would venture to guess everyone else on here has as well. Steffen does do private clients, and he does do over the phone or Skype consultations. So if you've got an issue that you're working on right now and you need a little bit of extra help and support, you can go ahead and reach out to him. I also want to do one more plug for the Underdog Alliance, which is an organization that Steffen is the director of, that helps shelter dogs who are at high risk for not very positive outcomes in the shelter. And I know that this is a tough time for all of us, but just even $1 helps. And he was so generous and gracious to come on and share his time with us. So thank you, Steffen. Thank you, everyone, for coming on and participating today. Again, my name is Jane Bernard. I'm the founder of WagWorthy Naturals, and we make healthy natural supplements for dogs. And since this COVID thing and sheltering in place chapter in our lives started, I've started doing these talks every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And so please feel free to come on and join me. For next week, we're going to be talking with the author of Belly Rubbins for Bubbins. He has his new book is being released next week, and he's going to talk about his mission and humane education and the books and his whole process. So I hope you'll join us for that. And if not, thank you. I hope this was educational for all of you, and I appreciate your time. And I want to say, stay safe, stay healthy, be well. And I'm going to definitely put in practice, Steffen, the things that you have shared today with my dog, Ollie, as
Awesome.
We transition back to hopefully a more normalized life. Steffen, do you have anything else you want to close with and share with us?
Nope, I just really appreciate your guys' time. You gave me a wonderful plug, so thank you so much for that. You guys keep it up, and you have my email, you have my contact information. I don't check the emails myself, but I have wonderful people who do. They're standing right in front of me. So don't feel like you're bothering me by emailing me. Please don't. I might not be able to get back right away. I might have somebody, I might dictate a response, and you won't hear from me personally, but you definitely will hear from us as a group. So feel free to shoot us any questions. We're all in this together. We really are. It's not just a coronavirus saying. We really are all in this together. So feel free to reach out whenever you need to.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a good evening, everybody.